Hello, everyone. This is Azizi podcast, and I am its host, Samir Azizi. And today I have a special guest. I'm sorry, almost spoke Russian there for a
There you
second.
go.
Tyler Buxton.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I'm very excited that you're here because I don't know the industry that you're working in is very special to me. And so once I came to Canada, and the industry that you work in is boxing.
Right.
Once I came to Canada, this was my first thought. Is like, okay, I want to get involved. I want to see the shows. I want to see the boxers.
Mhm.
And I'm also in this podcasting thing, and it's a big honor for me to have you here as a guest.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Glad to be here.
absolutely. So, how about we just talk a little bit about your background, and what you do, and how are you involved in boxing? And you are a boxing promoter.
Yes, yes. I guess it kind of goes back all the way to when I was in high school, and
Mm-hmm.
I went to school with a lot of guys that were very good amateurs
Mm,
in Ontario and in Canada. And I would always joke with them like, okay, when you turning pro, when's your pro debut?
right.
When are you gonna fight? And they would always say, well, there's nowhere to turn pro. There's
Mm-hmm.
no market here.
Mm-hmm.
So I would always joke like, okay, well, I'll be the next Don King, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll start promoting shows, and I'll build that for you guys,
Yeah.
and
Tyler, one thing I forgot to tell you is
just
that
keep
the
it.
microphone is really shitty.
It's okay. There we go.
So you
Is
have
that
to keep it
better?
close. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So that's kind of where it started. It kind of started as a joke, and
Mm-hmm.
then I moved to Toronto and started with a company and kind of started like an apprenticeship and
Mm-hmm.
started working for them and selling tickets
So
and
I'm sorry, who are
I
you
was
working
working
for?
for a company called Steele Promotions that was doing events here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I started working for them and
What kind of events were that? It was just strictly
just
boxing?
boxing, yeah, just boxing events. It helped with the setup, kind of set the
Uh-huh.
tables and chairs up and do whatever I had to do, and started selling tickets. And within a short period of time, I was doing very well selling for them. So
Nice.
I thought, I can do this on my own.
So
And
that was when? Like what time frame?
2006, maybe.
2006. So that was kind of almost on the verge of social media, but really before that?
Yeah, yeah, like maybe like Facebook, kind of just the start of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Facebook. So in 2008, I did my first
So
event.
I'm guessing like the selling of tickets was a little different back then, because right now a lot of people are utilizing social media for that and spreading the word out.
Yeah, yeah, that was old school back then. Like you
Mm-hmm.
needed to, you could text people back then and kind of do it that way, but it wasn't the
Mm-hmm.
social media wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So um, that
Were you
was
excited though, like to work at the real promotion company and be involved? Like, was it easy to penetrate that sort of industry, like to be like working
no,
with?
no. I kept calling the promoter, constantly. I was young. I was probably 20, 21.
Uh huh.
Kept saying like, I want to be a promoter. I want to be a promoter. And the guy's like, yeah, yeah, sure, kid. Like,
Okay.
kept brushing me off, and then I finally got an opportunity to sit with him. And
Was it because I read this article, like a lot of people want to be a promoter, and everyone thinks like, oh, it's so cool. You sit ringside and you're like next to the boxer, but then at the end they said like, if you really want to be a promoter, don't be just once or twice a year buy a ringside ticket, and you're gonna be better off just doing that. So there's also like the management path, and people say like you should start as a manager. Like, how was it for you? Like, you were super determined to be a promoter.
yeah, because there wasn't enough events here, and I think that was my goal
Hmm.
was to do like put the events on.
Right.
Um, and if you're a manager, you're not really hosting events. You're not actually providing a platform for the guys to fight.
Hmm.
It's just, um, you're trying to find them fights on other people's
Right. So
platforms.
event management was like your passion,
Yeah,
basically.
to actually do the events, put the events on, and build the sport.
Hmm.
So I did my first show in 2008, and it didn't go well,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was a good
Well,
learning
let's
lesson.
talk about failures, because I feel like failures is as you said,
Yeah.
good learning experience.
Hmm.
Gary V, who I'm following. I'm not sure if you heard about him. It's this guy on social media, and like he's all about YouTube, and
Yes.
he's like, if you don't like failing, if you don't like losing, you lost, basically. What do you feel about your first event? And you said it's a failure. Like, how did that affect you, and what exactly happened?
So I was in the carpenters union. I was a regular carpenter and worked my regular job. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to quit everything and I'm going to take
Hmm.
all my money that I have and I'm going to do this event and I'm going to be, the next Don King.
Hmm.
So yeah, that didn't go as planned. I lost everything I had. I
Okay.
lost literally everything. I had to borrow money off my brother to pay for the event,
Hmm.
and had to borrow a car off my brother to go back to work. So I
That's
literally had to call my boss back up and say, "Can I can I get that job back?
So how did that feel? I mean, obviously it sucked, but like, how did you
I
stay
was
motivated?
20. I can't remember. I was 24, I think, at the time.
24, like that's crazy. You were still a kid.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought I was having a massive heart attack that day.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
so rattled. But
Was it more of like, were you embarrassed or just angry? Like, what were you going through?
that's a good question. Um, just the stress. I think I don't know if it was anger at that time. You go
Hmm.
through a lot of emotions, right? You want to blame everybody. You also know where you failed yourself, and sometimes it just takes it. You need to take that step back and,
Hmm.
and look at what you did and reassess it. So I knew for sure I had to go back to work. So
Right, right,
I had to suck that up and make that call and say, sorry, I quit that job, but I need it back
right.
now. Um,
But then
and
you
then
had to go back, right? You had like somehow you had this in yourself to say like, all right, I can do it one more time. Let's try it.
yeah, and I kind of always held that in the back of my mind, and even when I tell people that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So I
Hmm.
knew going into the show it wasn't going to be good, and I knew that it was
Hmm.
getting come fight week. I knew where the box office was. I knew what I needed to make, and it wasn't going to happen.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
but I committed to the fighters. I committed to the public that I was doing this show, and to me, it had to go off. And I
Hmm.
still hold that to this day that I'm totally against canceling the show.
Right.
You make the announcement, you have to follow through.
Absolutely, and I feel like especially in this industry, what I'm learning in the past several years is that a lot depends on your reputation because
Mm,
at the end of the day, boxing world is a very small world, especially when you're talking about industry.
right.
Everyone knows each other, and everyone talks about each other. So you have to follow through with your words. That's for sure.
Yes, yes, and your accountability can be gone very quick. And it does damage not only to your company's reputation, but also to the boxing scene, which is an issue that we've
Hmm.
had here in Ontario. That
Hmm.
if a promoter comes into town and announces a show, people are buying tickets,
Right.
and then all of a sudden they cancel it. Sometimes they don't know the difference between the companies of who has credibility, who doesn't. They're just like,
Hmm.
oh, I bought a ticket for a show downtown Toronto,
Hmm.
and then it got canceled. So
Hmm.
I don't want to pre-buy a ticket now anymore. Like I'll buy it at the door.
Oh
So
yeah, absolutely.
so it affects our like pre-buy sales because people don't know the difference between a
Hmm.
reputable company and
Hmm.
company, some guy that just walked in and
Right.
announced the show. So
But it's funny for your upcoming show, you're and for previous shows as well, you're employing Ticketmaster as your platform, which I feel like it's a huge benefit to in terms of trust of public and just overall like the platform that you use.
yeah, Ticketmaster is through the facility and it's there,
Hmm.
easy to access, but
Hmm.
it's
Probably
just
takes its a lion's share of the fees too as well.
yeah, they take a couple of fees. They take a couple of fees,
Hmm.
but it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop someone from canceling a show just because it's on Ticketmaster.
That's true.
You do get your money back, but it hurts that sale to the fan that's not really a diehard fan.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's where I've always held that. I announced the show. I made the commitment. If financially it's going to
Hmm.
hurt me, and you got to follow through with your word. So
Hmm.
I've tried to stick by that for the last 12 years. So
So let's get back to 2009, I guess, right? 2010,
2008, yeah,
2008
yeah,
when you
yeah.
started, and then what was like the big breakthrough for you to say like, oh shit, like I'm good at this, I can do this.
Hmm. That's a good question. Sometimes you got to sit back and look and like, wow,
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
have a difficulty with that as well. But
Yeah, a
sometimes you
lot.
have to.
A lot's happened in the last 12 years.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I don't really have a specific point. Like
Hmm.
I knew that the next day after doing my first show, I'm like I can do this and I can do this better.
Hmm.
I just need to regroup and
Hmm.
fix a few things and keep building because at the time there was not a lot of local fighters. So I was bringing fighters in from different provinces and from the U.S. and stuff, and the cost of that is a lot more. If I
Hmm.
had more local fighters, it would save. The Ontario landscape now has changed because we've been doing consistent shows that
Hmm.
I can do a whole show just with guys from Toronto. Like that's how
Yeah,
much it's changed in the last
and I've
12
been to
years.
your show. Your show was the first one that I went to, and it was amazing. I loved it, and I
Okay.
loved everything about it, including the ticket pricing was very fair. I was like, oh, like because there's all this kind of sports Like I'm showing there, like
Yeah.
that the stadium was right there. The first thing I went to was the hockey game. Boom, $130 out. The second one was the soccer game. Boom, like $70. And then the Raptors also $130. Like the cheapest seat. I was always buying the cheapest seats.
Right.
I was like, okay, because I arrived here 4 months ago. I just want to go through all these events. I just see what's all this thing is about.
All the hype, yeah.
Because I'm really like into this whole industry. And then I was like, okay, finally boxing. Because I was like, any boxing here? Like I'm trying to like tweet out and see like, 'cause I don't know which websites to go, which Facebook
Right.
groups to follow. And Ryan Scalia actually like just bombarded me with like all these links and all. And so your show was coming up at the CAA Center at Brampton, right?
Brampton, right.
Yeah, I still need to learn all these Canadian cities and little places. And I was like, I wonder how much this going. And this like the price was so good. It was just like, oh, this is amazing. This is awesome. So I feel like this is a huge gift for sports fans in here. Like the way you're just providing the show and the production. You know, I just saw that the stage and the scene. And what I never saw before is the tables next to the ring.
Okay.
I don't know. I went to several shows in America, and I never saw little tables next to the ring. Like you can just sit there
at the table,
and everyone can watch you.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's neat.
That's a different because we use the hockey arenas, you know, and we find that it's easier to sell to the corporations to entertain their clients and give them something different than going to a hockey game or a basketball game. So what we found is that having a ringside table, 10 seats, you can entertain, 900 clients. They have a spot to put their beer.
Yeah.
And they can interact with everybody. Whereas if you're at a sporting event, you're only interacting with usually the person on your right or your person on your left. So technically you're only really entertaining 2 clients during the event.
Exactly.
So it's worked out good, and
it just have this VIP experience feeling.
Yeah,
you're sitting at the table while everyone's watching you guys. I don't know. And that's like a lot of sporting events is about that. That's kind of like which row are you sitting on, but like you're sitting on the floor on the table. I don't know. I really like that,
and people like that, and that's what we play on. It's it makes people feel special. They get to dress up. The girls get to dress up. Like we have a lot of female fans too. They enjoy it. That hey, we're VIP. We're at a table. They can put their dresses on, and they're
surprisingly a lot of female fans.
Yeah,
I was really surprised by this because predominantly boxing is dominated by male fans. But so that was great. It's different in Canada. That's for sure.
It's a different landscape here, especially in Toronto compared to Montreal and also everywhere else. But going back to the price point, it's important to us that we have a cheap ticket that
I would say not cheap, inexpensive.
Inexpensive. There you go. A more inexpensive, yes.
Fairly priced
ticket, yes. Fairly priced ticket that families can bring.
I'm just saying this because I'm the one who buys those tickets.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't buy cheap tickets. I buy inexpensive tickets.
All right. Deal. That families can come out for a night of entertainment. If you have a family of 4 to try and go to a hockey game or a Raptors game, it's
ridiculous. Yeah.
Ridiculous. Yeah. So this way they can come out and introduce them to the sports, and hopefully that it builds from there. And that's kind of what our goal has always been.
Yeah.
We have a price point for everybody.
So. Absolutely. And so you were talking about Montreal and Ontario, and we just had breakfast and sort of talked about it a little bit, like in terms of, boxing culture in Quebec, right? And boxing culture in Ontario. And it's sort of like, it's more sort of, people are more crazy about there, but then I ask you why is it different here? And there are certain factors were contributing to that, but you were saying that in the past there was like some difficulties with commission. Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So for I don't know, I can't remember. It's changed like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. But before that, going back 20, 25 years ago, we had a commissioner here who was on a government salary, and he got paid the same price whether it was 1 show a year that he had to work or 10 shows, and he didn't care.
Okay.
He wasn't a boxing guy. He wasn't interested in building the sport. He wasn't interested in working, I don't think.
Okay.
Made
things difficult.
It made things very difficult. And it was easier for him to not approve a fight than to figure out a way to help and make the fight happen. He put a lot of roadblocks, made things very difficult, and stepped.
And that was basically for every sport. Like, was that a commission for
just for boxing?
Okay.
Boxing, and then also when MMA got regulated, he also regulated the MMA too. So, but for boxing, he was the boxing commissioner, and he was kind of the judge and the jury, and there was no one really to go to if you had an issue with his decision, there was nowhere to go with it, and he kind of just made the calls and hindered the sport for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's not the only reason, for certain, waves of interest or not interest for boxing, but of course, like things like that can contribute to this as well.
Right.
I was at the sports center, I think it's next to the stadium, the Toronto Raptors, the Scotiabank, right? They have like this bar, and I was like, I'm gonna go watch Canelo Kovalev fight, and I go in there, and it's just filled with like fans, right? And I was like, fuck yeah, like this is it. This is awesome. Like everyone's into boxing. But then like I came really early and they showed the UFC fight.
Right.
And everyone's watching the UFC fight. I'm like, cool, I'm gonna watch too. Like I'm excited. The Masvidal versus this other dude. I forgot his name. But people's gonna hate me for that. I forgot his name, but whatever. The bad motherfucker. But okay, so first of all, it was so crazy that the Kovalev and Canelo were just waiting until the UFC fight ends. And then after that, I realized why they're doing this, because once the UFC main card was over, 95% of the bar left. And for boxing, it was 2 tables and me at the bar who was watching. And I was like so offended that happened. And I was like, you guys, like this is Canelo versus Kovalev. Like, come on. And everyone just left. And I was thinking, wow, like this is... People are not interested in Toronto downtown. They're not interested in boxing. And I was like, wow, this is a problem. This is something that I did not expect. And I was genuinely upset about this. But then I went to your show and I saw like the fans are like in that area, in Brampton area. So that was, I was like, wow, so they are all here. Do you think it's like very location based, especially like in Ontario, like who is rooting for who here?
I think the other issue is that the media has just been, because there hasn't been, any boxing here. There's no real sports media guy that covers specifically just boxing. The TV doesn't cover it, so it's been it's been pushed underground kind of thing. Whereas the UFC came here, I think it's kind of like.
Yeah, everyone is excited about UFC though. Like it's still a combat sport. Because I'm in my mind is like, is that because boxing is dangerous? Is that because boxing is so brutal, so like unapologetic, politically incorrect? Is that the thing? But then there's UFC, and like everyone's smashing each other there. So like I don't understand. Like so that's not the reason.
No,
I mean, of course, I understand that in general, boxing is sort of it's way off its peak. Like that was in the 70s or 60s, right, with Ali, But you still have to wonder.
Yeah, the issue here was that there was nobody writing about boxing, no one covering boxing, so no one was educating the people. No one knew nothing about it. There was nowhere to go to watch it, nowhere to follow it. And UFC came in. It was a new sport, so everyone was an expert on it. It was easy for writers and guys to start writing about UFC, talking about UFC, because it was a new sport, and because it was banned here for so long. When it finally came, they packed the Rogers Center, and it was a big event for them to finally make it into the market. It was just kind of like that thing that you couldn't have, and now all of a sudden you can have it. Like the first time you get to go to the club and drink, and it's just like you're so excited for it, and then after a while it's just like, okay, I've been there, done that. So it's died off, but I find it was the boxing fans that are true boxing fans are very unforgiving, that if you have an opinion about somebody, especially in the media, that they'll jump on you, right? So you need to
especially
know,
in the Twitter industry,
all that kind of stuff. So if you're covering boxing, you need to know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Whereas the UFC, I think, was easy for people to jump in and start talking about it and become an expert very easily.
That's so funny. I was watching Joe Rogan podcast yesterday. And Radio Rahim was on it. Do you know him? Yeah. So they were talking about the same thing, and Rogan said the same thing about UFC. Like, if you are trying to talk about UFC but you don't know what you're talking about, like the fans will destroy you.
Right.
So it's funny how, they all have their truth.
Yes.
And but I don't know. like I can see you doing your thing, and Brendon Cookus is your fighter, and he's so great. I like his charisma. I like his like the whole bad boy. Like I don't think he's a bad boy. He's like a freaking bad man. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. He's had that nickname for a long time since the amateurs. But
Yeah.
he just kept it, and everyone loves it. So,
but just like his look and how he came out. I remember last time at the CAA, something was
Yeah.
with his music or something, and he
Yeah.
decided not to walk out.
yeah, no, he has a song, and he's like, I'll wait for my song to come on.
And you know what? I completely understand it because in my experience, fighters would order their music,
Mhm.
and someone would always like mess it up. Like a lot of times would that happen, and they just go anyways. But for a lot of fighters, it's important. Like for me, like the music would be very important that I come out
Mhm.
to. And if it's something different, like I'll be completely off my game. Well, not completely, but like that would affect me.
Yeah.
So I respected that. I was like, nice. Like he just waits there until they
Yeah.
fucking change it.
Yeah. Yeah, it depends if you're the main event. Then
If you're the main, yeah, of course.
Some guys in the undercard like whatever, wrong
Yeah, yeah.
song. Like I don't care.
You have to know
I'm going right, but it's the main event. He always comes out to the same song, and
Yeah.
he was going to wait for it. So
Nice.
yeah, he's a special fighter.
How did you meet him?
I knew him from the amateur days because I used to coach amateur boxing, so I used to follow him, and I'd see him at tournaments, and he's knocking guys out, and always
Mhm.
in good fights, and always had a big fan base. Is what I really noticed early
Mhm.
on. I'm like, this is an amateur show, and this guy's got like 100 people here watching. It's like,
That's
so
awesome.
My promoter brain starts going. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
when this
yeah.
guy goes to turn pro, this is something that I need to talk to him.
Nice.
So I did his pro debut, and we've been all the way to Vegas now. So
That's great. Well, all the way to Kazakhstan.
all the way to Kazakhstan.
That's what I say. Like I just recently watched the Kazakhstan fight with Kanat Islam, and I was just wondering how was Kazakhstan for you? Like, what do you think? Because I'm from Kazakhstan, and it's interesting.
It was amazing. It was amazing, and honestly, I would love to go back.
And that was in Astana. That is called Nur Sultan right now. We changed the names, by the way.
Oh, they changed the name?
Yeah. So
Okay.
now it's Nur Sultan because our first president was called Nur Sultan. So, or he's called so. So we're doing this thing.
Okay, so the city's name's changed.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, I did not know that. So
just in case you hear something, it's Astana.
it's Astana.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's actually Nur Sultan now.
Okay.
So geographically, I don't want you to get lost.
Yeah, very good. No, it was.
What time of year that was? Summer?
I want to say September.
Okay, so it was kind of not really hot, but it was not snowing or whatever.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was September. It was just before my wedding.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, sorry, I had to think there for a second. Yeah, that's exactly when it was. So, no, the opportunity came up, and everyone
What do you feel first when they say like you got to go to Kazakhstan?
they were looking to find someone that was willing to come to Kazakhstan
Yeah.
because so many American guys. I guess everyone in North America has that. They don't know where it is. They don't know anything about the country, and they
Right.
just hear this Kazakhstan place, and they start. They don't really know anything about it, so they're nervous to go there. And
But you guys were aware that Triple G's from Kazakhstan,
right.
and I mean, at least for that reason, you might as well check it out.
Yeah, so I looked into it some more and went back and forth with the promoters, and we got the number to a spot where we wanted to be in order to travel that far. At the time, undefeated.
Yeah, of course.
We wanted to make sure that it was put ourselves in the best position.
Yeah, that the deal was
possible.
right.
Yeah. And we knew that Kanat, obviously a two-time Olympian, was a real test. Brandon will fight anybody. That's the great thing about him, and that's why I enjoy doing things with him, because he'll go anywhere.
Oh yeah.
We went to Montreal before that when he beat Stephen Butler, and it's just like,
is that when the riot happened?
Yeah,
I was watching that.
Yeah, so some guys won't even go to Montreal and fight, and Brandon's like, hey, if it's the titles are on the line and the money is right, I'll go anywhere. So
nice. But I'm glad the Kazakhstan treated you well.
Yes, it was it's a long flight. Long travel, but
especially from Canada, it's easier to go to Kazakhstan from Los Angeles because of the timing. I mean, it depends on which airline you take. I usually take Lufthansa, but like with me, you have to take this flight, and you have to be in the airport for 4 hours, and then another flight. I don't know.
Yeah,
especially during winter.
I think we flew to, I want to say Turkey the first.
Oh yeah,
we went to Turkey and then switched.
Yeah, I've done that too.
Yeah, and then coming back, we flew into Poland, I believe, on the way back.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so it was, it was amazing. I wish we spent more time there. To be honest, I would love to go back.
That's crazy. There are so many foreigners there right now, but not enough, in my opinion. but the foreigners themselves, especially the European ones, they are so happy that not other Europeans are there, because they're going to all the touristy spots, which are nature.
Mhm.
And the lakes, the mountains, the steps, the freaking hills and all of that. I'm not really into nature, but people seem to love it. And their best, the thing that they talk about is the most is that it's so virgin, it's,
Right.
it's so unexplored, and they can just feel it. There's no other tourists and all of that, so I definitely recommend everyone to visit
Yeah, there
my
wasn't
country.
yeah, there wasn't too many tourists there. We stuck out a little bit, but getting recommendations for restaurants and directions and stuff, everyone was so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
We got to take in a soccer game, and we missed the hockey game, but
Yeah.
it was a great experience.
Yeah.
Great experience in beautiful country.
All right, well, enough with flattering of Kazakhstan. I think I earned my golden star.
There you go.
And I can safely come back to my country.
There you go.
But Brendon Cookus is actually fighting on February 22nd.
Mhm.
What do you? Who is he fighting against? And what can you talk? What can you say about it?
Yeah. So February 22nd, he's fighting Fernando Pina from Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Going into his world title fight in Vegas against Jaime Munguia, he tore his shoulder. We knew it was injured, but we didn't know the severity of it.
Okay.
It was about 2 weeks before the fight. So Brendon, being the fighter that he is, he won't quit, and he won't pull out of a fight. So we took the fight, and when we got back, we did the MRI and found out it was much worse than what we thought it was.
Oh wow.
He had surgery, and kind of that was the year layoff.
Uh-huh.
His last fight, we were expecting a bigger test than what we got.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get some rounds out of that opponent. He did 8 rounds with Francis Lafreniere in Montreal, so we figured, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we're probably going to get 8 rounds also, and Brendon knocked him out in 1. So we didn't really get to see, his,
So it's a test for Brendon still then.
Yeah, to make sure that the arm's good and the shoulder's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
We want to make sure that he goes through the full camp and then also gets into a real fight before we take
Mm-hmm.
another big test. Knocking the guy out the first round, we didn't get
Yeah.
didn't get to see what we wanted
Of
to see,
course.
but the fans were happy. So
Yeah, but I can imagine you're still a little bit nervous about the whole.
yeah.
how you don't know
So that's our. We sat down as a team afterwards, and
Mhm.
speaking with his coach Mike Guyette, is like we didn't see
Mhm.
we didn't see the arm, we didn't see the shoulder, we didn't see
Mhm.
how he's going to react over
Mhm.
8-10 hard rounds.
Mhm.
So we got another tough Mexican, and hopefully we get some rounds out of him.
Mhm. A lot of fighters come flying in from Mexico to fight here. I noticed.
Yeah, it's a cheaper flight. It's a direct flight.
Oh, okay.
You can fly right from Mexico,
Which is
City to
perfect because
Toronto.
you have
Yeah.
so much talent in Mexico that can
Right.
fly in here. So,
There's so many fighters down there to choose from.
yeah.
They're reasonably priced. The flights are reasonable. It just seems to be the easiest way.
Awesome.
Sometimes bringing guys in from the U.S. They get stuck at the border, and there's usually more issues. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
easier to bring if the Mexican fighters have their visa. We know that they can get in.
That's actually a good point. It's much harder to come to the United States in terms of you never know. I always know fighters they need to hustle to get that visa. They need to go through this bureaucracy in terms of the United States. In Canada, I don't know how this works, but I can imagine it's probably less of a hustle to bring a foreign talent to Canada.
Yeah, with the Mexican guys, they just get their visa, so we kind of have an idea. Actually, I just had one that got denied a week ago, so I know whether they're going to get into the country or not before they even leave. It's much easier. With American guys, sometimes they'll have a drug charge from 30 years ago, and then when they get to the border, they're not allowed in.
Right.
Or they have a outstanding child support payment.
Mm.
And they don't realize it, and then they can't get in. And sometimes it's not even the fighter. Sometimes it's the coach that has, a small drug charge from, the 50s or something.
Wait, are you talking about getting out of America?
To come into Canada. Yeah, they'll get stopped.
Oh, no, I was talking about if you're in Kazakhstan trying to get to America.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's why you gave me the looks. What are you talking about?
Yeah, okay, sorry. I misunderstood.
Yeah, but my point was basically is that I feel like America requires more for you to come into their country,
right.
And you have to go through the whole thing to the interview. My friend recently was in America. He's from Kazakhstan, wanted to visit Canada. He didn't even need to show up for an interview. He just mailed in his documents and got his paperwork back with the visa on. So that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
this really works.
We're not too picky.
But Speaking of the foreign talent, I know that in Montreal, in Quebec, there are a lot of foreign talent from the Eastern Europe and Kazakhstan. Um, what do you think about bringing some of the foreign talent here? Have you ever considered the possibility? Because we have some tough characters in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Russia as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent there. That's an interesting. Uh, it's an interesting concept and an interesting way to do it. Because of the market is not as strong as Montreal,
Hmm.
it's difficult
I see.
to get the support here at all. So we find it easier that if we have a local guy, it's easier. At least he has some support.
Hmm.
Whereas if you're bringing a guy in from Kazakhstan or Russia or something like that, he's going to have
Hmm.
no support. He's going to get no coverage. So it's just
Right.
very difficult to build him. Whereas if at least he's from Ajax,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
easier to start in Ajax and work your way
Locally.
out and start building him up. So that's the issue that we still have here. I don't think
Right.
that we're quite ready to bring in foreign fighters yet
Hmm.
and start building them here.
That reminded me of I was in Montreal watching the Lemieux fight, and on the undercard, Akhmedov was fighting, and he's from Kazakhstan. And I was like, "Oh yeah, my guy is coming out like Kazakhstan and all of that." And I'm like thinking, where all my fans are? Like, where the Kazakh fans are? Where the flags are? And none was there. And I'm texting Jason Tufexis, to basically saying like, hey, like, he should fight in Toronto because all the Kazakhs are actually here. They
Here,
go to school. The students like from
yes,
Kazakhstan, the immigrants, because they're mostly English speakers rather than French speakers.
right.
Because but in Montreal, they're really trying to to push that they're from there, like they are the Canadian fighters. So
Yes.
that's one of those
Yeah,
selling
because
points.
they live there now, right? So they
Yeah,
move there and
yeah.
live there, and they play the local angle, which has worked there. Like Lucien Bute, built his whole career there,
Hmm.
and the whole city province got behind him. So it is doable there because of the
Hmm.
support that they get from the media and everything else. But you're right. Technically, the Kazakhstan fighter should be fighting in Toronto.
Yeah, it was personal for me. I was just like, where are my people at?
Where's the
Where are my
flags?
people? Where are the
Yeah,
flags? Like,
yeah.
this guy is about to be a superstar. But talk about that Montreal brawl, like that riot that happened with Brandon.
Probably my best boxing memory.
No, that was crazy. Like I was
Yeah.
watching because I didn't know about it, and then Jason texted me about this. Like when Lemieux was fighting Bursak, uh, things were not going according to the plan,
Yeah.
as far as I can understand. Like it's just like brutal. Like Lemieux was really fighting there, struggling, and he did a good job at the end of the round. I think he performed well.
Right.
But it could have gone either way, and
Right.
I was like, "Wow, what's gonna happen?" I was like, "Is it gonna be like another riot or something?"
Yeah.
So how it was on your end, like when you were actually there, first person?
So that fight was built. Yeah, Brandon was 18-0. He was the WBA North American champion. Butler, I believe, was 18-0 also, or 17-0, and he was the IBF North American champion. It was the English versus the French. It was Ontario versus Quebec, and they really built on it once we got there. The whole promotion built on it. They both kind of came up at the same time. Butler had the better amateur career.
Mm-hmm.
Cook, didn't have the amateur background, and the whole fight week while we were there was just very much built on English versus French,
Okay.
Quebec versus Ontario, and they built it. They built it a lot. The problem with Brandon is that he has a lot of fans. So I can't remember if it's 500 or 600 people traveled from here
Nice.
to there to watch him fight, which is not normal for Ontario fighters that travel, 5 hours to fight. They don't have that kind of following.
Of course.
Brandon has that following, and he still does. So that made things even more intense because there was actually people cheering against Butler.
Mm-hmm.
But just the things leading up on fight week, word started getting exchanged. Butler telling him he's going to knock him out at the press conference.
Mm-hmm.
There were some issues with the gloves.
Mm-hmm.
At the gloving meeting, they got into it. There was an exchange of words, and
So it was real.
it was real.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was real. It was. There was no love lost. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then I remember like that knockout was brutal.
Yeah. So Butler's a very good boxer, and he hits hard, and we knew that, and we knew that the first couple of rounds you have to be very careful and respect his power early on. Coming out for the fight, there was a lot of hype, a lot of people yelling. We're walking to the ring, and people are "F you," you know what I
Right.
mean? And it was very, very emotional for the people in Montreal. Um, and you could just feel the tension building. The closer we got to the fight, the closer we got to the main event, you could really feel it.
Hmm.
And that doesn't happen too often. It's a special kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And then they come out, and there's Butler comes out to the main event, and he's got a lot of support from the separatists, which is Quebec people
Hmm.
that wanted to leave Canada and start their own
Oh
country.
yeah.
So it was
Cool.
very, very like French versus English.
I have yet to learn about the separatist movement of
Right.
Quebec,
There you go.
but it's,
So
it's pretty cool that they're also into boxing.
right. So it built a lot. There was a lot of emotion. The fight happened, and we knew we had to weather the storm early on, and Brendon did that, and caught him and hurt him. I think it was in the 5th round, and then I think when he knocked him out in the 6th, and then the referee, to be honest, it saved the kid's career.
Of
Like
course.
if he would have let him out, he would have got knocked out bad, and it allowed him to go on and fight for a world title himself. So the issue is that Butler had some family members that were near the ring and had bottle service and such at their table, and I think they believed that the stoppage was early, or they were mad at Cook. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but they started throwing bottles and started throwing everything, and it turned into security guard went to get them, and then they turned and started fighting the security, and
Right.
it just turned into a massive brawl because we already had, there was 500 English fans there also, right?
Emotions are flying high in those events, and I'm very emotional when I'm watching boxing fights, especially if my boxer is fighting, right?
Right.
If someone that I'm a fan of is fighting, and so I can totally understand that. But of course, that's like unacceptable. I feel like that would happen. Although, based on the footage that I've seen, it was really maybe like 6 to 7 or 8 people who really were aggressive, and
Yeah.
and everyone else was just very excited about it.
Yeah. It was like, I think, one table
Yeah.
of people, so maybe 8 or 10 people that actually it got into, and I think it spilled into the tables that were beside them.
But then the bucket flew into Cook. That was
so
that was surreal.
Yeah, so literally, Cook was kind of going over to tell Butler good fight.
Yeah.
Butler pushes him, and at the exact same time, there's a bucket that comes flying into the ring. So the timing was, perfect.
How can you throw a
but
bucket into the aim like this? Like it's
I don't think
crazy.
it just happened to be perfect timing, just wrong
Yeah,
place at the
yeah.
wrong time. Obviously, he was very upset. So
Was Cook all right after that? Was he like, or was he concussed? or-
obviously, yeah. I think he had some issues.
Because I saw
with
some
that.
interviews afterwards, like he actually was fine, and
Yeah,
but I was just wondering,
yeah.
like, was that a problem?
Yeah, he was okay. Like he didn't get knocked out from it, or like his coach Mike and
Cool.
myself, we're just holding him down because he was
Mhm.
losing it. So we're like, we don't need you outside the ring fighting
Yeah,
people
yeah.
now. But he wanted to. Yeah,
Of
he
course.
was very upset with how it all
Mhm.
went down and how it happened. But you know what? He got a lot of exposure from it. So
Of course,
it got
no,
us
I mean, yeah.
it got us the trip to Kazakhstan. So
Awesome. That's right, guys. Start a brawl, go to Kazakhstan. Nah, just kidding. Have he ever came back to Montreal to fight after that?
he hasn't been back to Montreal to fight. No.
Is that like, why not? I feel like that would be a great opportunity, or is it like a safety concern, or more of a like just a business thing?
Just hasn't come up yet. Like we went to Kazakhstan right after that. Came
Mhm.
back. I think he fought here locally at home
Hmm.
once or twice. Got the world title fight. And
Yeah.
Now we're back. It's
Okay, so everything is
he's willing to go anywhere.
Cool,
like
cool.
yeah, we could do that fight. Butler's moved up in weight. I would like Brendon to move down in weight, but he's not willing to do it yet. But
Uh-huh.
I don't think he will. But
I'm kind of excited about this whole rivalry between Ontario and Quebec. In America, I don't think it's the same. Like we don't have this sort of rivalry. They don't have this sort of rivalries. It's mostly
No.
maybe between the gyms or something like that. Or
yeah, it's because of I think the English French thing that the rivalry is just
Yeah.
obviously put in there. I don't know if you have it in Kazakhstan, maybe Kazakhstan versus Russia or Uzbekistan or something. Maybe there might be a little
it's
bit.
it's
of
Kazakhstan versus everyone usually.
There you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
But yeah, in America you wouldn't really have it. It's not the same.
Yeah. So I like to be on the team.
You're right.
I want to be Team
Right.
Ontario.
Yeah.
You know,
So
just
you're
like
in. You live here.
represent.
Yeah, you're here no matter what now. So,
Mhm.
maybe they have it kind of between like New York and LA, like East versus West, maybe, but it's not the same.
It's not.
The
Yeah.
rivalry, because of hockey's always been the big sport here.
Right.
Montreal Canadiens versus Toronto, they were the two, best teams for so many years,
Hmm.
and that rivalry, has grown into boxing and everything else.
Hmm.
Um, I think, yeah, it's a special rivalry, and it's fun
Yeah.
right now. Right now, it's for years Montreal didn't really have a rivalry like in the boxing world. We didn't
Hmm.
have guys that could go there and put up a good fight
Hmm.
and steal some wins. And we've been on a roll, so hopefully, knock on
Yeah,
wood,
of course.
we keep that roll going. So
And it's funny because I feel like because in Montreal in Quebec the interest is so high for boxing and everyone's so angry there about it. Like it's always like our guys would go there and just like try themselves, like
yeah,
hopefully kick their asses.
yeah, exactly. And we've pulled off a few.
So talk about Sukdeep Chakriya for a little bit because I went to see him fight as well at the same card, and he has a lot of fans, a lot.
He's a special talent. He's a special talent, and he I guess would be the first foreign fighter, but he has a local connection, so it's not really the exact same as bringing a Russian fighter here. But
Yeah.
fought amateur in India, would come here and visit his family in the summer and train here in the summer.
Oh, so he's actually like the first generation immigrant.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's not.
That's
he,
pretty
he was
cool.
born. He was born
Okay.
in India. So and he fought amateur through India. He was on the Indian national team and traveled.
Nice.
But when he would come for summer break, he would train here.
Hmm.
So that's the connection where he made that connection with Ryan Grant.
And you're representing him, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So when he won the Super Series boxing tournament put on by Amir Khan, got voted the best boxer, and his coach Ryan Grant said, "Hey, this kid wants to move to Canada and turn professional. Are you interested?" I said,
Yeah, and I like his style too. I mean, great fighter. But also like outside the ring, how he promotes himself, how he acts, and how he dresses, and just like I feel like he has all the
he's the full package.
Package of being a superstar.
Yeah. It's I'm excited about him. I'm excited about his career. I think sometimes I got to step back and remember he's only 8-0 and take
Of course,
slowly.
Which tells you something, right? You're only 8-0, but like you get this excitement around him.
Yeah.
The stadiums are already having his fans around, like literally. Like, and a lot of it, like Indian community really supports him.
Support him, yeah. They're getting behind him. It's certain communities do that, right? And the Indian community is getting behind him. They're more aware that he's here now and realize like so many people have watched him on the Super Series and realized, hey, he's the best boxer in India. They didn't realize that he was moving to Canada. So now he's here. We're looking at putting him in BC also because there's a big following in BC, but. Right now he's the future, so I'm excited.
This is awesome.
Yeah,
great. Hey, so is there anything you would like to talk about? Because I know like you got to go in like 13 minutes.
I'm good. I can talk about whatever. It's been
so let's talk about the show again. So it's February 22nd.
Yep.
And at the CAA Center at Brampton.
Right.
And the ticket price starts from
inexpensive
from inexpensive to
to the ringside tickets. The ringside tickets are all gone. The VIP sections are pretty much gone right now, but there are tickets still available on Ticketmaster. Brendon Cookus in the main event. Sukdeep Chakriya sings in the co-feature. He's fighting Richard Holmes, who has from Jamaica, who has a good connection with Canada. He's fought here several times. He's fought several guys. He made it to the contender finals, I believe it was last year, and lost to Ricardo Salas, who's one of our fighters. So we have a little bit of a rivalry there, but he was just in Hamilton, I believe, last year. Dropped Kevin Higson, had a close split decision. So he's a tough game guy. 30 pro fights. Then he just fought in Montreal against Drolet and went 6 rounds with him. So it's a good test again for Sukdeep to prove that he's at that level. We'll see how that goes. I'm always nervous for my guys that are,
absolutely
starting out. A couple other fights. We have a couple of Ontario versus Ontario matchups. Brock Stump is fighting Shavar Henry, which is a cruiserweight fight. People are excited about Brock because he's he swings for the fences and doesn't want to go to the scorecards. So that's always good. And Mark Smithers from Barrie, who has a big following, also is on the card. Canadian light heavyweight title fight with Jay Alexander and Tim Cronin, a little rematch. So it's a full fight card.
That's awesome.
Should be good.
In your opinion, in the future, do we have a possibility of having a fight in downtown Toronto?
Like you mean like a big fight,
Like a big
like
fight?
Triple G coming to Toronto?
Well, actually, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
do you think that's possible? Do you think people behind the curtains, behind the scenes, are thinking about making Toronto a fight hub of
It's
sorts?
a major sports city, and everyone's well aware of it. I think people realize that there is a bit of a media issue here still
Hmm.
with getting the coverage. But I think if they came with a big fight, like someone like a Triple G or a Manny Pacquiao or some
Hmm.
sort of big heavyweight fight, I think we could get you know the following. But it'd have to be promoted with enough time
Hmm.
and done properly. Um, that yeah, we could
Yeah.
fill the Scotiabank Arena.
You know, I'd love to talk more to you, especially when you just reminded me that you have connections with Jamaica,
Right.
and I know that you're doing some fights there as well. That you're, gathering stadiums,
Right.
tuning in. So I'd love to have you maybe next time and talk more about that.
Yeah, we can talk Jamaica, talk whatever you want to talk. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And also about the media thing, because for me, it's still kind of a weird thing. Is it because media just doesn't like boxing, or they just don't have talent, or is it like
I
an
think
outside?
it's an issue of just not having the proper people that can cover it,
Okay,
and I think because like I said, it was just not there was no boxing for so
I
long. So
see. I
putting
see.
a guy to cover the fights in Vegas just to
Hmm.
sit here in Toronto all week doesn't really make sense, I guess, for them.
Right.
Um, but in saying that, the landscape has changed here. There's a lot of fighters.
Hmm.
Steve Rolls fought Triple G. Brandon Cook fought for a world title fight. Sam
Hmm.
Vargas has had a lot of big fights. The landscape's changed, and boxing's building, and the kids that are coming up are even better than the ones that are getting the fights now.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. So I'm hoping that there's going to be more interest and more journalists covering that, because it is in my interest to travel as little as possible to go to fights.
there you go.
But in general, I feel like it's just exciting. I feel we have so many immigrants coming to Canada,
Mm.
and usually they are into boxing as well. And this freaking market is growing and growing exponentially, and therefore this is a huge opportunity to grab
Yes.
that market.
Yes, and you need to find us a Kazakhstan fighter locally so we can start building them up here.
Well, maybe no. I'm just awesome. Well, Tyler, thanks so much for coming into my podcast. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Look
Yeah,
forward to doing it again.
awesome. I'm really happy you said that.
All right.
Alrighty, well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I
All
appreciate
right.
it. Tyler Buxton, everyone, February 22nd at CAA Center at Brenton. Tune in and subscribe to Azizi podcast. Thanks, everyone. Take care.